briefly introduce the topic, and then we're going to go to each of our 4 expert speakers in turn, who are going to give us a quick update, maybe a 5-minute update on what this means for them in their companies, in their supply chains. And then we really want to open it up to the floor for questions and discussion from you. And really, as I think about this whole area, some things are clear. There's a lot that's not, but some things are clear. I think many companies are already tackling sustainability issues in their businesses, in their upstream supply chains, and also downstream through often consumer use and disposal. And that's not because they've solved everything, they've got everything right, but more they recognize they have to be making steps forward, and it's good to go on the best information that you've got to get started. And we hear that often it's hard, that time is short, that there isn't always huge budgets available for sustainability initiatives, and the people you're trying to engage in your own companies or elsewhere often have a day job, and this is an extra thing you're trying to get them to do. And yet, we also know that the opportunities that come from this are huge, and whether it's through managing risks in your supply chain, or finding new cost reductions, or opening up new markets, there's plenty of scope to get started and to make the business benefits shine through. And so this session, this discussion, is really about what's needed today to make this work in the real world. And we'll hear from our 4 speakers on what they're doing today in their businesses and their supply chains, maybe some things about what's working very well. I also hope they're able to tell us some of the things that they've done that didn't go quite so well, so that we can learn from those, and it can be something we can add to our collective knowledge base. And really, ultimately, what can TSC, what can the EU Commission, and others involved in the future of this space learn from these experiences to make sure that we have something that's genuinely fit for purpose going forward. So we'll get started now with our 4 speakers. I think we'll probably go in order down the room. So we'll start with Charlene. This is Charlene Wall-Warren, who is Director of Sustainability at BASF.
Thank you, Euan. Good afternoon, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. I'm representing BASF. I'm located in North America, but it's a special treat to be able to be here in Europe. Maybe very quickly, who are we and why are we here? So BASF is the world's leading chemical company. I find sometimes in North America people don't know us so well. So very briefly, we are supplying every industry from pharma to food and nutrition to cosmetics to toys to agriculture to construction. So it's a fascinating place to work. We have over 110,000 people around the world, and we have nearly 400 production sites globally. So from my perspective, it's a great place to be able to work on sustainability because we touch every single value chain in some way. Why are we here? So BASF was the first chemical company to join the Sustainability Consortium in 2009. We felt the mission of science and sustainability fit very well with our work. We're also quite active in the Product Environmental Footprinting Initiative, also in the Social Metrics Roundtable Initiative, and many other spaces. So we are both working on the science and the life cycle approach of sustainability, as well as working in the business context. I will tell you very briefly my background, because that's the way I like to describe how sustainability has evolved at BASF. I'm a chemical engineer by training. I started over 20 years ago designing chemical manufacturing facilities, looking at safety and environmental production and protection and efficiency for our plants. In 2001, I started in a life cycle assessment, and that really gave me what I call the sustainability bug. I said, this is excellent. You can take science and math and unit operations and apply it to what sometimes feels like a softer topic. Then I had a chance to work in different industries. So as mentioned, we provide many solutions to different industries. And now I work in a strategic perspective within BASF on sustainability. In 2011, we announced our We Create Chemistry strategy with our company purpose, We Create Chemistry for a Sustainable Future. And at the time, we said environment, health, and safety continues to be extremely important for us, but we want to move sustainability into our strategy organization. So I and my sustainability colleagues sit within our corporate strategy group, which also does all of the strategies for all of our businesses. So it's very exciting to kind of be woven into the DNA of the company. So how is this kind of reflecting the BASF's evolution on sustainability? So in the mid-1990s, we started with life cycle assessment. We built on this solid environment, health, and safety initiative that we continue to work on improving wherever we can. But we found that life cycle assessment, while it's a very thorough, analytical, scientific approach, also has some real challenges, I think some of which were addressed here. It's hard to scale, it takes a lot of time, it's very complex, and it's very difficult to take such a complex science and translate it into a business perspective. So what we've done over time, and we've developed eco-efficiency analysis and socio-eco-efficiency and ag balance, is we've kind of transformed from a very quantitative, absolutely 100% scientific basis to more of a basis that says we need to understand and address stakeholder concerns, we need to understand trends and drivers in the marketplace, and we need to still leverage the science and the quantitative approach, but we need to bring kind of this more human element of saying, what are people concerned about? Our science may be different than the science that they're using. We may feel something is very safe and they may not, or there may be different ways to look at it, but we need to have that dialogue and really make sure we're working towards better solutions. So recently we announced at the beginning of September something I'm very excited about for BASF. I think it's been a real internal transformation for us. We have assessed 80% of our product portfolio, and to give you a sense of our scope, we didn't only look at the product, we looked at the product applications, over 50,000 product applications. And we went through all of these applications and assessed what are the sustainability benefits or potential concerns of our products in those applications. It took us 3 years to do this. We involved 1,500 plus experts within the organization, ranging from product stewardship to toxicology, to manufacturing, to marketing and sales. And we now have a very good baseline of our portfolio. We know that about 23.5% of the sales we've assessed so far are what we call accelerators. So they're products that bring a very substantial sustainability benefit, be it in climate and energy, health and safety, even addressing the UN Millennium Development Goals. We know that 73.5% of our products are what we call performers, so they meet basic market sustainability criteria. They're good, but they can continue to be innovated towards the future. 4.5% are what we call transitioners. These are products where we recognize there is a concern in the marketplace, we're already working on it, we're already developing alternatives. And 0.5% are what we call challenged solutions. So these are the ones where we say, this is a technology that's really at risk for a particular reason, be it legislative, be it perception, be it environmental, be it safety. And we will have an action plan in place by the end of next year for those solutions. And next year, we will actually then work on setting targets. So we have operational targets already, environment, health, and safety operational targets. We will work on setting innovation targets around that will grow the part of the portfolio that is an accelerator. So for me, I'm really proud to be able to say, as the world's largest chemical company, we are really working on this and developing solutions that respond to the market trends and drivers into the future. The last thought I'll share with you, because we were asked to talk about the challenges, and I'm happy to speak a little bit more about that once we get into the Q&A. I see the biggest challenge is what we've talked a bit about already this morning, which is this transforming the science, the detail orientation, the life cycle approach, transforming that science and theory into practice and making it usable in the business context, simplifying it, but making sure that you do not lose really key criteria, which may be the biggest impact over the life cycle, and not defaulting perhaps to looking at something because it's simple and because it's easier and missing the real opportunities to drive impact, which may be in consumer use or in areas like this. And that's why we do life cycle assessment. So I think that's something we're doing great work on and we can continue to work on. So thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Charlene. So I'd now like to introduce Karin Sanne, who's Climate Change Manager at AkzoNobel.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I would say I could also tell you more or less the same story that you did before. So my background is also from the life cycle assessment, and now working in a central group in AkzoNobel. AkzoNobel is the biggest paint and coatings company and also a very big chemical company. I will focus on some key things in the approach AkzoNobel have chosen around sustainability the last years. We also started with life cycle assessment in the mid-90s in a small scale, and then it developed and grown from part of the business to the whole company, and now it's very much implemented in the whole company. So in AkzoNobel we have one strategy where sustainability is integrated. We call it Planet Possible because we want to see opportunities, not problems. We have 3 key sustainability performance indicators, together with a lot of other indicators, of course, and they are always next to the financial indicators. Nothing separate. And these indicators are percentage of revenue from solutions with a significant sustainability advantage for our customers. Value chain thinking solutions for the customers. And this is what we call eco-premium solutions, also similar to your approach. And we always compare against the most commonly available commercial product. That's a methodology beyond this. Always better than the mainstream solution. The second indicator is a carbon footprint reduction target. And we have a reduction target of 25 to 30% per ton sales in the value chain, cradle to grave. And to measure and monitor this, we base our mod on almost 400 models of what we call key value chains, representing all business segments, more than 80%, sometimes 100% of businesses. So it's very thorough, and I agree there are a lot of details, but in the end it also comes out in useful, user-friendly results. The third one is an index where we combine financial value with resource consumption. That's what we call more value from fewer resources. And that's the first time we combine these areas, sustainability and finance, into one single indicator. So that's a breakthrough. I mentioned this indicator because that has really been a starting point for a lot of things we are doing and how we implement it in the company. When it gets into targets, people get interested, they need to do things, and they will do and deliver. That's our learning. So in addition to this, we of course also have this LCA expertise still, and performing eco-efficiency assessments and detailed studies now and then for specific part of the businesses. And actually we published a certified environmental product declaration already 2000. So yes, it was doable also year 2000 based on product category rules. We were also asked to talk about success stories in the company. And one important thing for AkzoNobel is that we have had CEOs which are very supporting sustainable development and really see this as this is the future. That not only helps, it's necessary for development. So already 2009, we implemented a cradle-to-gate carbon footprint target. That was a time when we understood that there are much bigger impact outside our own operations, upstream from our raw materials and also downstream when we use our products. So we have had the reduction targets already started from 2009. At that time, we also defined this eco-premium solutions methodology, solutions with a sustainability benefit somewhere in the value chain. And this innovation metric was also a big breakthrough because it required qualitative assessments of everything we put on the market. It was not possible to do it quantitatively, so qualitatively, but it required a lot of discussions between functions in AkzoNobel, sourcing, RD&I, marketing, and later on, of course, also supplier and customers, to be able to come up with this assessment. Another thing I thought about as a success is to really get people engaged, and we have had during several years our remuneration program, incentives for high management linked to sustainability performance. That's also a good way to get people interested and do things. And nowadays we also have a lot of people in different functions have their individual targets based or linked on sustainability things, different depending on which function they are in. Sounds very easy, but it's a long journey, and yes, it takes a lot of time. It's nothing you do during a year or two. We started, as we said, mid-90s, and now we are where we are. So it takes a lot of time to explain to a lot of people, implement, calculate. Yes, calculation data is needed, and a lot of communication. And yes, it's not easy, but it's the way forward, we think. And yeah, by having one strategy, we say that sustainability is business and business is sustainability. So it's nothing you do separately. And this means we have to implement sustainability value chain thinking in all our existing processes. So we don't develop new processes. We implement them in existing RD&I innovation processes, in key supplier contracts, etc., etc. And finally, if we would say something and advice or what we would see, I think we have mentioned that many times. It should be easy to apply, user-friendly, and be able to use in the reality. And I would also add that always strive for supporting sustainable development and not only increase administration burden, because I think that's also what we understand. There are a lot of things that just is around administration and not really lead to more sustainable things. So that was my short introduction.
Okay. Great, thank you, Karin. So let me now introduce Rachel Goldstein, who is Global Manager of Scientific and Regulatory Affairs for Sustainability at Mars.
Great. Thank you, Euan. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm really pleased to be here on behalf of Mars to talk about the work we're doing in sustainability. For those who aren't familiar with Mars, we have a portfolio of brands. People will probably recognize M&Ms and Snickers. But we also have a pet care business, gum and confectionery through Wrigley, as well as a non-confectionery food and a drinks business. So we are a principles-led business, and it's really these 5 principles that shape the way we do business, but also frame how we look at sustainability. We aim to make a difference to people, to pets, and the planet through our performance. So there are going to be 2 areas I'm going to talk about in the few minutes I have up here. So one is our operations, and the other is our supply chain. So for our operations, we are committed to reducing the environmental footprint of our factories and offices. And we have a program called Sustainable in a Generation, or we call SIG, to address these goals. SIG has 4 different targets. The first being 0 greenhouse gas emissions by 2040. And that would be absolute versus intensity. with the interim goal of 25% reduction by 2015. Secondly, zero fossil fuel energy by 2040, also with an interim goal of 25% reduction by 2015. And this year we announced a really significant step towards that goal, the Mesquite Creek Wind Project in Texas. We announced that earlier this year. It's a 200 megawatt wind farm that obviously will generate electricity from renewable sources, and that the annual output of this project will cover our US operations and also give us some room for some growth as well. That's due to be online in the first quarter of 2015. Our third goal in SIG is zero waste to landfill by 2015. And what we have found with this particular goal is incredibly engaging to our associates. I think it's something that's very tangible. And we have found in different regions of the world where the waste infrastructure may not be as advanced in some other countries, that people have come up with some very creative solutions to go towards that goal. So right now we're at least 55 factories that have met the zero waste to landfill target. And lastly, under SIG, we have a 25% reduction in water use by 2015. And with the theme of a few challenges, while the wind project was a really great success, but many years in the making, but we also look at where we've baselined our energy use starting in 2007, our product mix doesn't stay static. So certainly things of production mix changes, smaller pack sizes, geographical mix changes have all led for us some challenges in terms of managing those goals. Okay, for the other part, I would like to move on to sourcing, which really is the biggest part of our footprint. We are collaborating with a number of different groups, knowing that we can't do this ourselves. And really our first foray into sourcing was 5 priority ingredients and really looking at primarily through certification. So the first being cocoa, where we have a 100% certified cocoa goal by 2020. The second, palm oil. So we had a 100% RSPO certified goal by 2015, and through mass balance, we met that in 2013. And I think most people in this room know that there's been a lot of action in the palm oil space right now. And earlier this year, in March of 2014, we announced new targets. We look to go beyond RSPO certification, where we've committed to developing a fully sustainable and traceable supply. The first step that we'll develop is really looking at the traceable pipeline back to known mills by the end of 2014. And I'm also really happy to say that yesterday we did our 6-month report out, and that as of August 31st of this year, we were 57% traceable back to mill. So we still have some ways to go, but we're making great progress and being transparent in our reporting about it. The third raw material where we had certified certification goals was 100% certified black tea by 2015. We also had a 100% certification goal of coffee by 2013. When we reported out for our 2013, we were only 73% of the way there. So this was a target that we did not make. So again, thinking about some of the challenges, what we did learn is that the lead times for procuring the materials are longer than we expected, and we had to learn a little bit more about the importance of building in the internal procedures in order to manage those timelines. And the last is 100% fish and seafood products from sustainable sources by 2020. So looking at those 5 raw material targets, we've learned that certification has tangible benefits. I was fortunate enough to be able to go to Côte d'Ivoire to take a look at some of our cocoa work in the beginning of the year, and you could certainly see some tangible benefits. But we also know, if you think about the palm oil example, that certification is not the panacea for all the sustainability challenges. And so how do we look at that is really a good step forward in the journey, but more needs to be done. So last year, we made progress in developing our sourcing strategies, trying to map out our top 40 raw materials and coming down with a priority list. And this year, we're starting to define specific policies and goals towards impact-based targets. Our deforestation policy that we released in March of 2014 is the first step to tackling these impacts in our supply chain. But in conjunction with developing the strategies and goals, we have to align with our procurement teams for implementation, for governance, governance in collecting managing and analyzing data as we start to look further into the supply chain. So in terms of our role with TSC, Mars, our decisions are based on our principles and informed by science. So the idea of the science-based tools was very appealing to us. We're heavily engaged in TSC, and we're also involved in the PEF in terms of the pilot project for pet food. We benefit greatly from this collaborative process. And I think one of the most important things that we're seeing now in terms of particularly with the theme of a lot of the speakers, is the striving towards harmonization, both between the TSC and the PEF, as well as TSC's embrace of targets and KPIs from other science-based initiatives. I think many of us here operate in multiple markets, knowing that alignment can help us drive sustainability through our supply chains. And we look forward to continued collaboration with our partners here. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Rachel. So let me now introduce our final speaker, Bernard Pruvost, who's Head of Environmental Sustainability at Nestlé Waters.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here for two reasons. I will talk now in this session on behalf of all Nestlé Group, and later on you can join me in the working session for the presentation of the Pack Water PEF initiative. So let's start about Nestlé. Nestlé is a big company, and you know that the success of Nestlé always been more or less based on two main pillars, which is we buy products which are healthy or healthier, and we buy products because they are very tasty or tastier. And we know that the future will be the consumers is now adding another pillar, which is we want to buy products which are also better for the environment. So it's up to us and to understand what does that mean, to translate that into organization and to change and to align the organization with this third pillar. What does that mean? It means that we introduced new key indicators for managers. We train people. We have changed 2 years ago the environmental policy, which has been introduced in Nestlé since more than 20 years. Now it has been completely revamped to address the sustainability. What does that mean for us? And what does that mean for the consumers and for the products? So after that, we have recruited a lot of experts, and we have trained hundreds of people about sustainability. We used KPIs, we used tools around life cycle analysis. I think it's hundreds of people trained at Nestlé on the LCA. So we are very familiar with what we discussed this morning, but then what we discuss about. So it's now introduced in a lot of key expertise in all businesses. So to be demonstrative, I think Nestlé is very clearly also very volunteer, and we are part of the environmental PEF initiative. We are in the 3 pilots among the 11 relative to food. So we are leading or co-leading these 3. We think also that it's not enough because we are an obvious lack of accuracy or lack of data in terms of food. It's not easy in food. So we are partnering with other big companies, with the Swiss government, with the French government, about assessing accurate database on what we call the World Food LCA database. So it's important to have that. So we are also collaborating all along the value chain of the products. So what does that mean internally? We have introduced tools to measure life cycle analysis, to measure our performance, be it on products, be it on company, be it on brands. We try also to evaluate everything. So we have introduced tools now since 7 years, which are for us the most advanced, aligned with methodologies which are regularly updated. So we are aligned with ISO, aligned with PEF, and aligned with Food and Drink Europe, for instance. Sometimes, let's say we are aligned at 95% of this kind of recommendation, and we push for specificities that we think it will become the future, and we try also to convince others that it could change something. But 95% is more or less already there. So we are using that tools which are very user-friendly. So we have to educate people about what does that mean, what is important to know, not to be lost into technologies or techniques or formula or something like that, but you have to be very, educated to what does that mean for your products and what does that mean for your consumers. Is that something that we can extract information that can be useful for the consumer, of course useful for the company. So we have established that we call category profiles for, let's say, for the main products we use to sell. And we have established, let's say, for the 3 main KPI in environment, water, energy, land occupation, for something like that. We try also to educate everybody in the company, up to the sales managers, up to, when you are talking with your customer, to understand this is something which is key. You have to know. Okay, we are not talking about benchmarking. We're not talking about even about our key products. We are talking about what is the category, what is important. What about energy, leverage? What about the farmer impact about expertise and so on? So we have developed in the past 5 years a lot of category profile that now we are trying to share with all key managers within the company. We also have established a new way of communication directly for the consumers. Of course, we have the label or the pack. It's not easy to add things on that, you know that. So we are more and more using internet or using iPhone. We try now to have more and more way of communication. At least we test if consumers are at ease when catching information from that kind of support. It's important for us to evaluate how far we can go in details or in illustration and so on. So we do a lot on mobile technologies. We call that beyond the label initiatives. And we try to, for instance, for us to evaluate information that are very key for the environment. It is what is the avoidance of waste? What is the best way when you are at your kitchen to prepare your meal? So it's important to say that it's not only the product we sell, it's also everything, including the storage condition and so on and so on. And we try to evaluate for the time being and the next steps about communication, what we'll do. So you know that Nestlé is very active also to the food wastage avoidance. We try, this is very key, I think, for everybody. In terms of impact on the planet, this is one of the biggest action we can take. And at the end, we have evaluation made by, sustainability and social responsibility evaluation. So transparency efforts from Nestlé are recognized by stakeholders. So we are very proud to say that Dow Jones Sustainability Index, CDP, Oxfam are evaluating Nestlé as part of the best companies in transparency and delivering things into sustainability, not only in finance. That's it.
So let me ask you a first question, and then I think we quickly open up to have some questions with you guys. The first 2 words in the title is reality check. And we have been discussing a lot today, but also the last years, exactly what you described very well. So we have products, let's use any product. We describe it scientifically, we identify hotspots or key performance indicators. What is relevant? Is it packaging material, packaging weight, kilometers? What is the relevant things? So sound, relevant. So, and then we discuss more and more, how do we tell the consumers these information? So this is how to, basically, using marketing language, how do we sell consumers the sustainability benefits of a product? But when you look the other way around, if you turn the supply chain around, look from the consumer perspective, then the consumer is interested to see what the supply side can offer, but also the demand side has some challenges or issues. Let's call them the hot issues or the hot buttons. So for example, me as a consumer, I might want to know, if I'm a Muslim, if pork ingredients is in a washing detergent. The working group at TSC or the PEF pilot will never look into pork ingredients in washing detergent. It's not a sustainability hotspot. But a quite relevant fraction of the human world population would be highly interested in it, and definitely the brand owners would be highly interested to know that, because they don't want to be the only product that is banned basically quickly for a whole community. And there are vegans, there are vegetarians, there are people with allergies. There's a temporary media issue, something happened with a meat scandal, and then you don't want to eat, so you just basically want to know, do you have horse meat in your lasagna? We heard it from Karin today. Or do you have aluminum in your deodorant? Or we have any chemical compound suddenly can pop up. How do we deal with these hot issues, which is actually a big driver for people to get interested, excited about? What is your vision on it? And it would be interesting to maybe at least have two sides. You are more in the very upstream of the supply chain, very far from the consumer in a way, but as chemicals are often kind of questions, so maybe highly relevant to anticipate what come up. And maybe by consumer brand Mars or Nestle, because you cannot really standardize it. No, when do we decide if pork-free is an attribute to a product or not? I mean, normally for washing detergent we might say not relevant, but for a Muslim it makes a big difference, or could make a difference. What do you think?
So I'll offer the upstream perspective. I think from our side it is a very difficult challenge, right? Because you want to focus on what's most important and most impactful, but it might not be what resonates with the consumer. So that's where we try to look from a few different lenses. So if we participate in an organization like TSC, we have really a movement towards a simple capturing of what are the hotspots we know about today. What we also do then is we participate in specific value chain organizations, because sometimes an issue will be specific, let's say, to construction but not food, or to packaging but not toys, and then sometimes you'll see it in all value chains. So we join there in Sustainable Packaging Coalition, in the US Green Building Council, and we find then through those engagements and then through engagements with the other end of the value chain, right, so with dialogue with retailers, we feel that gives us some sense, a better sense of what are the issues that are popping up that we need to be able to respond to. But for us, we're not marketing directly to consumers. So the best we can do is work along the value chain, understand what the issues are, and then look towards the brand owners and the retailers to say, guys, how can we help you? If you need a new technology, have it available for you and innovate it for you, but you guys need to help us then really kind of market this out into the consumer world because you're closest. So I will turn it then over to the closest guys.
Only to add something that sustainability is not the first concern. We should talk about sustainability after compliancy, after being sure that quality and compliance is there. This is the basics. So the main effort of the company is to be sure that with audits, with training and so on, and with halt and transparency, that you start by that. And then, only if you are at that level, a company can talk about sustainability long-term view, and if you are very good at that, you can say, oh, what is my impact about the society? So, but if you are not good at the base and the basics, you should not start sustainability. You stop sustainability. Even for us, I can give you an example. We are talking about, long-term view about expertise, excellence in expertise, TPM, and so on, which is total productive maintenance. And if a factory is failing in compliances, we stop everything. We stop all, second wave or third wave of complexity of advanced factory organization. So you are back. Let's say we closed the gate, we say in our company. The gate is closed, so stop everything. You do not have the appropriate management of the basics. So maybe it's an answer to you. Here we are only talking about sustainability, so there is a prerequisite. Normally, basics are there.
Yeah, but maybe to specify, I mean, there will be more and more questions that come due to various temporary, so could be anything. I could ask Nestle as a consumer, can you guarantee me that you don't use any oil from tar sands in your bottles? And you say, oh, whoa, never thought about it. So how do we react to this? And this could become even more standardized because more consumer will ask us to more people or more suppliers that they don't do at the moment. At the moment we think they want to know the path or the 3 hotspot that we identify, but you're right, they're just part of the mix, and maybe a PEF ABC rated product is one of the indicators out of 20 or 30 or 100, I don't know.
I mean, to your very specific question about if something is halal, we do certainly have products that are labeled that way for markets where people are interested in that particular label. But to the point of compliance, we have to make sure if we're going to put that label on there that we know for sure that it meets the standards. And we're certainly active in various different science groups and legislative groups to find out if standards are changing, if there are certain new requirements. Those are always, from a compliance standpoint, we have to be doing that. But the longer range horizon scanning of what might be the next issue, what might be the next horse meat, and the ability to actually trace back through your supply chain, the ability to answer the question is certainly a long-term process for us of how do we start tracing back through the supply chain, whether it's palm oil, whether it's something that's whatever it is, but how do we answer that question? And that's something that we have issue management teams looking at the science, but looking at the consumer perception of the science as well, and trying to figure out when does something become that tipping point where we need to be able to answer the question, need to be able to act. There's the monitoring and then there's the answering. I wish there was an easy formula that said if X plus Y equals Z, we do
No, we
this,
don't want
right?
simple solutions. Nature doesn't.
May
Yes?
I offer one more way that we tackle it is through a prioritization process. So looking at some of the external groups, but then actually doing a specific hotspot analysis together by interviewing stakeholders along the value chain in a specific product category. Because you can't respond to everything, as you said, right? So you need to do this prioritization process of where are the biggest concerns and how do you then sensibly prioritize where you focus on. So you look to groups like this, and then you also, I think, ask the stakeholders and validate, is this really a big concern, or how can you prioritize where you take action?
I think we have seen, it can be easy to say, give me a carbon footprint or an environmental product declaration, and then we know everything. And that's too simple. And maybe we know that in this room with, say, experience for many years. But when you implement in the company and you have a lot of people not that used to the questions, it's simply to say, oh, give me a number for sustainability, and then I know everything. And then you miss all these important things, which many times are more important than the carbon footprint or global warming potential for the customers. And the second one, I would say, AkzoNobel is both the supplier and the paint more to consumers. It's also to use a language that the consumer understand. So that's what I learned from the marketing people. Don't talk about carbon footprint or not solvents. Talk about the smell of the paint. That's more important for a user. And then, of course, it has a lower carbon footprint. But use the words that customers understand and care about.
Okay, thank you. We take 3 questions from the audience. 1, Andreas. 2, that makes my life easier. 3, good. Just 1, Andreas.
Okay. Yeah, hello. My name is Andreas Wade. With First Solar, I'm leading the PEF pilot on photovoltaic electricity. And I've got a question for Rachel and probably also for the podium. So I was amazed to hear about your 200 megawatt PPA wind purchase agreement to basically, decarbonize your energy supply. So just out of a selfish interest of the PV pilot, I would be interested to what kind of categories did you use to assess, whether wind is the right solution for that, or whether another combination could be used for that? So solar, biogas, geothermal, you name it. And may I just add another point for the whole podium? So just interested hearing about your sustainability initiatives. Do you apply KPIs to your electricity supply? I think the chemical companies certainly are also producing energy. They own power plants, I'm sure of that. But do you, in the long term, have a strategy to kind of say, okay, we want a certain environmental footprint per kilowatt hour of electricity from our suppliers or internally, and want to achieve that? So that's the general part of the question, but thank you.
Okay. So doing the wind project, particularly that scale, does not negate us doing solar projects. And we do have solar projects. We have landfill gas. We have other biogas projects. And so we are looking at a diverse mix of different types of energy to meet the goals that we have. But we have pretty ambitious goals. So there's some degree of needing something that would have to scale in order to do that. We've retained ownerships of the renewable energy credits, so we can say that it's our renewable energy. There's a 20-year agreement that will allow us to pass an additionality test. But we are still considering, we have a whole pipeline of different renewable energy project options that we look at to see where it makes sense. So particularly I can talk more to the US, New Jersey had a lot of very good solar energy credits, right, in the renewable portfolio standard. And so taking a look at, with the wind project, the production tax credit incentive in the US, which applies to wind, that also helped make sense for doing those projects. So we look at the individual market conditions and then what can potentially get us to scale towards our greater ambition.
I think when it comes from us, if we do ourselves the wind in production or the biogas production is very easy. When it comes very difficult is when the purchasing department is purchasing electricity with the green label, whatever it is. The question is always, is it not double counting issue? Is it, so it's not that clear. So we always are very reluctant with that. So we ask for official recognition by the third party evaluation and so on. This is something which is, we always are very cautious at least when we receive that kind of information. But we do have, in some countries, some strong belief that it's correct, so we introduce at that time the numbers.
Thank you. You want? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you asked about the energy, and in AkzoNobel we have renewable energy targets for energy used in our own operations, and we work with energy suppliers in the same way as raw material suppliers to discuss improvements and supply specific information.
Happy to briefly build. I think for us, so we are looking internally to see where renewable energy can be more effective for us. Most important for us, being very energy intensive, is the really kind of the consumption. So reducing the consumption, maximizing energy efficiency, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And so that's where we focus our efforts. How we achieve that, whether it's through the operations where we tend to see the biggest impacts in reducing consumption, or through the sourcing, then is done on a case-by-case basis. And we do find renewable energy very important sources for the future. Those are important areas also where chemistry helps to make wind turbines and solar panels more viable. So that's a space we continue to look at to see where we can optimize the approach.
Thank you. We have the last question to our friend Heinz.
Good afternoon, Heinz Schmid from Switzerland. The four companies are enormously big for Swiss relations. In my business environments, I'm talking to small and medium enterprises, and they're really small enterprises. What you've been doing requires a lot of money and resources. Is there anything that might come out of your work which might be used by small, really small enterprises, like 10, 15, 20 people?
Yeah, I think you've struck on something. So while we are large organizations, to Euan's point, to start with, the sustainability teams are often not so large and well-funded necessarily. So we have also challenges with scale, I think, from the sustainability perspective internally. That being said, I think for us it's really important to share the learnings of what we do. So this eco-efficiency analysis that we started in the 1990s, Akzo is using a very similar approach, and we've published that quite a bit. And I think that kind of life cycle approach and life cycle thinking should really be available to everybody, whether they have the resources to do it or not. That's, I think, also why groups like TSC should further share the learnings out into the marketplace. We also do, so we're quite large, but with all the diverse markets, we have a lot of customers who are small to medium enterprises. And so there we then share kind of our learnings. We have, for example, in China, we have a supplier training program where we then share about sustainability and life cycle assessment and so forth. So I think it's a matter of really making sure that when we devote the time and the resources and the funding to develop a new methodology, we share as much as we can. We make sure it's externally certified and validated, and then can be used by others. And these key groups are places, I think, where we can share that knowledge.
Bernard?
Yes,
Last
if I may
word.
add, I think the PEF initiative is the answer to your questions, because we have the demonstration. When you publish your PEF category rules, it's public, it's available, you have a clear identification of data and rules to apply. And having done that, it costs more or less nothing for any SME to do a very simple analysis of what to do. For instance, I have an example for you. We try to do so in the Bottled Water Association European, which is called EFPW. And having done the PEFCR, we said that we can now offer to anybody, to any company, with a fee of 500 euro per year, access to a tool to do a very simple analysis. So, but the first step is to be on the PEFCR. And if you are there, the cost is nothing.
Thank you. Big applause for the panel.